Inquisitor Enoch's Venators explored the Underhells in Hive Secundus. Fighting Xenos monstrosities and finding data crystal stacks was their mission. Join me as I build Enoch's Hunters using the new free rules PDF, Bonedry and Broke, and build the gang using a Warcry warband as the base, and then painting them up to a playable standard, this time on JD in the Sump Sea. Welcome back to JD in the Sump Sea. I'm Jay, and today we're looking at the new Venator PDF and building my new Venator gang from start to finish. And if you like Necromunda modeling, talking about the rules, going over campaigns, and just general Necromunda lore and the setting intrigues you, then make sure that you bust out your Warhammer and smash that like button and smash that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit that bell icon so you don't miss any of our videos. Now, back to Enoch and the video. The Warcry Wild Core Hunters box. I thought they were a pretty unique looking set of miniatures. They all tied together well. And here is the first one. This is a basic hunter, Venator Hunter, just a regular ganger essentially in Necromunda. He has a las gun. The head is from the Hive Scum box, and the las gun and arms are from the Delac weapons and accessories box. This next ganger, the body again is from the Warcry box, but the head is from the 30k models for Sisters of Silence, and she also has a stub gun which is from the Hive Scum box. This third ganger is actually a specialist, and I replaced the rock he was standing on for a skull. I thought that looked more appropriate. And then also the las gun and arms are from the Delac weapons box, and the head is again from the Hive Scum box. This next ganger is a champion. He has a very old school Warhammer 40k 2nd edition las pistol, but otherwise he remains unchanged from the original Warcry model. This is another champion of mine. I decided this champion would be not really a combatant. The arm with las pistol is from the Baneblade, actually, because I do have a Baneblade and been using the bits from that sprue on various guys. The head is from the Delac weapons and accessories kit as well. And then this is Enoch, my leader. He is holding a sword. It is a great sword. The sword itself is from the Grey Knight Terminator box. The long polearm handle of it is actually from the Flagellant box, and then his arm with the crossbow is, the Warcry arm. The head is from the Caudor accessory box, and the hourglass is also from the Flagellant box. I painted them black, and then we did a Zenithal highlight. Then I started painting. Well, I used Nostalgia 94 from Warcolours, and I used their blood red to paint the pants, and I painted the pants of all of these guys with that same color. I then also painted their hoods and cloaks in a yellow color, a sunburst yellow from Nostalgia 94 as well. So I played these guys throughout the campaign without having painted them until about week 6 I had them painted up like this. And then week 7 I decided they actually had to get painted, and I decided to expand the gang by adding a Beastman. And I decided also I needed to add some scopes. Since they were heading into the Underhells, infrasights will be key down there, because visibility as you go through the Hive Secundus campaign gets worse and worse. So I added 2 scopes, both to the Specialist's las gun and to the regular Ganger's las gun. And these were various bits I had from a long time ago. One is probably from a Space Marine box set from 3rd or 4th edition Space Marines, and the other one I'm not really sure. It looks like I cut it off of an old sniper rifle, probably a scout sniper. I named the Beastman Gorn, and I decided to paint him not in just an all black, but a soft black from this acrylic craft paint that I have. And it's basically kind of a black that's kind of brownish. And so I just kind of painted the whole body in that color as a base coat, and then I took white and just dry brushed him with a big brush, all white all over him. now we're back to painting the humans. I went on with this kind of tannish color craft paint and painted a bunch of wood and leather parts of the models with this color. I used Scrag Brown as painting other brown parts of the models. Once that was done, I went back to GW Paint again with Uriel Yellow, and I then repainted on the cloaks the Uriel Yellow, just to make the yellow brighter from what it was. Because I knew I wanted to wash them, and having it brighter before the wash was probably a better idea. Alright, then I grabbed my Warlock Purple from the Nostalgia 94 line again, and I started painting a lot of their shirts in the purple. The Serpent Bite Leather was yet another brown, another shade of brown that I used in different parts of these models. And then the Mithril Silver. So pretty much most of the metal bits on these models I painted in Mithril Silver. Although I also used Lead Belcher from Games Workshop on some of them. Depends on the pieces of the model, which color silver I wanted to use. But this Mithril Silver is much brighter than Lead Belcher. Alright, then I got a Dwarf Bronze from the Nostalgia 94 line, and I used that on Enoch's details. So like his hourglass and a couple other components of his, I painted that bronze color. Nostalgia 94's bronzed flesh for all the flesh color parts of all the models. So hands, arms, if there's exposed heads, things like that. Painted that all with that bronzed flesh color. And I could be more experimental with flesh colors on my gangs. I'm generally just lazy, and that's the only reason I don't do multiple colors. Occasionally I will do different skin colors, and I probably should start doing that more on my future gangs, but for now this has kind of been my process. So I got this new chestnut wash from Nostalgia 94 as well. I think it's supposed to represent the chestnut ink color that Games Workshop produced many years ago. So I figured I'd give it a try, and I wanted to try it on Enoch's head, on his reddish orangish head mask that he's wearing. So I put that on there, and I think I put on a couple other pieces as well. Went back to the Skeleton Horde now, and Skeleton Horde is what I started on Gorn. All of Gorn's like hooves and horns, I did the Skeleton Horde on. I used the Flesh Wash again on Gorn's skin areas. And then it was time to wash the entire gang. We started off, of course, with a good old Agrax Earthshade over everybody. Starting off with Gorn, got him just slopped it all over. Agrax is great for getting into the recesses and really making the models look like something. Tying everything together from that base coat you put on, you then wash them, and it just pulls the whole thing together, as you can see, with Gorn right here as he's now finished. I then went to the Agaros Dunes, and I used that on all of the cloaks. So I just kind of slopped it on with a bigger brush, and then once it was on the cloaks, I then went over with a smaller brush and kind of pushed it around in some of the recesses and got into the narrower crevices and the cloaks to kind of push the wash where I wanted it to really give the cloaks some more definition. I then went over to Agrax Earthshade again, except I was out. So what I decided to try was take some mid-brown wash from the Army Painter Quick Shade series and throw that into the pot. So kind of mix that with the little tiny bit of Agrax that was left over, and then I put in some Lamian Medium technical paints from Citadel Colors from Games Workshop. I added some of that into the mix too. All of the models I washed with that kind of concoction. was basically done at this point. All I had to do was the bases. So we went over to the bases and I did some Chaos Black from the Nostalgia 94 line. Just painted the whole bases black. I then decided to paint Enoch's sword. At this point I was like, I gotta finish his sword, right? So I had washed it in a Nuln Oil wash to make it darker, and then once it was dry, I then took a light blue from Games Workshop and I just kind of dry brushed the edges, just tried to make it look like it was kind of glowing, since he was focusing his psychic energy through the sword, and we wanted to make it look like it was actually a force weapon, which, if he had gotten to play longer in the campaign, I probably would have upgraded it to a force weapon at some point. So then for the bases, we went back to the bases, and I wanted to get kind of an orangey color that I didn't really have. So I took some Sunburst Yellow, and I combined it with Blood Red, again from the Warcolours Nostalgia 94 range, and it made kind of a nice orange color, which I then kind of slopped on a lot of the bases. Again, a lot of times when I paint, I just slop colors on, and then washes either fix the issues that the sloppiness does, or I go back over it again with other colors, kind of filling in places I missed. But the real point of doing these painting videos, in my opinion, is to share with you my techniques. And my techniques are the things I've learned over the years that work for me. And I feel like a lot of people take painting too seriously. They feel that they can't do it, or it's too difficult, or it's going to take too much time. And really, it's not that hard, and it doesn't take that much time, as long as you don't convince yourself that it takes too much time. So I feel like you can get in your own head, and that can really mess with how you accomplish things, how you get things done. I know I've gotten in my own head about things in the past too, but painting shouldn't be one of those things. Painting should be relaxing, it should be fun, it should be easy, and it shouldn't take you forever unless you really are trying to do something very special. Like if you're trying to enter into a competition, sure, painting the miniatures is probably going to take longer, but I'm painting for tabletop, and so that's why I'm sharing these techniques with you, to hopefully show that you don't have to spend a ton of time, or you don't have to take lots of classes. There's just some basic things you can do. Blocking out the colors, putting on the washes, a little bit of dry brushing here and there, and believe it or not, your models are going to look pretty darn good. So let's get back to painting. So I then take the lead belcher and I basically dry brush over all the bases. And once that's done, all of them basically look like metal with some rustiness in certain parts, because I want to keep that orange peeking through some of that silver in places. Sometimes I'll put some washes on top as well. I think here I just left it the way it was. But then I wanted to paint around the edges, and I always paint the edges of the bases, and I always paint them different. They're not always black. Sometimes they are, but usually they're brown or there's tan or something, depending on where that gang is supposed to be operating. These guys are somewhere in the Underhells, somewhere underground in, Zone Mortalis. So we're doing a dark brown. This is a dark brown craft paint. And I recommend using craft paints if you can. A lot of times they're way cheaper than Games Workshop paints or Army Painter or any of these other brands. And for a lot of things, they work just fine. And here is the final look of the gang. I think they look pretty decent. They look like they're kind of all dirtied up and they're fighting underground somewhere, and they've had a kind of a rough experience. And that's exactly what I wanted them to look like. This is using the new PDF, and there are a couple differences from the PDF and the Book of Peril. The PDF, there are new stat lines. I'm not sure why they changed the stat lines, but there are new stat lines for leaders, champions, and hunters, the regular gangers. They each have a different stat line. They each have, I think 4 stat lines each. There's also a Beastman Ratling and Squat, both leader, champion, and ganger, hunter stat lines. So you could have a complete gang of Squats or Ratlings or Beastmen or even Ogrins. Ogrins are in there as well. Or you can mix and match. I decided to have mostly humans, but add in one Beastman just for flavor. But these guys are my champions and my leader. We have Acheron, the hunt champion. His stat line, he has a strength 4. I only did that because I wanted him to have kind of a basic stat line, but intelligence of 5+, and the only one that had a good intelligence was this guy with the strength 4. So that was the one we went with. He has Fixer, that's his main thing, he makes money. He also has a Cred Sniffer, again, making money. The Stiletto Knife and the Las Pistol mean that he's not completely useless, right? The Stiletto Knife has Toxin, so in theory he can wound almost anything if he doesn't roll terribly. Enoch, the hunt leader, he's my leader of the gang. I wanted to give him the best willpower I could that made sense, and I didn't want to give him, slower than 5 movements. So 6 willpower was as good as I could do, so I gave him this stat line. He actually has 3 wounds, which is very nice. He has the Berserker skill, gives him an extra attack when he charges, which is nice because he only has 2 attacks to start with. He's got a great sword, mesh armor, a stake crossbow, and a needle pistol. So the stake crossbow is interesting in that it's 15-inch range, but it's enhanced when fighting against psychers. So technically he's kind of hunting for psychers. I don't know, it could have come into play in the campaign that we played in recently, the Underhells campaign, but it actually didn't. But you never know these things. But I thought it'd be fun to have a stake crossbow because Inquisitor and all, All right, moving on to Iocanthos. He's my other champion. He has a stat line that has a movement 6. I wanted this guy to be incredibly mobile. He also has the clamber skill, so he can climb anywhere. Basically, he is unhindered by terrain. He can move straight up a wall if he wants to. I also gave him a sword and a las pistol, mesh armor, and a cameline cloak. So if he's shot at before he moves that turn, it's a -2 to hit him. So he can move around very easily, and he's very difficult to hit. That was my goal with him. All right, let's move on to the next set of gangers, the 4 regular gangers in the gang. We have Loranth, who has an axe and a stub gun, kind of a regular stat line. We have Gorn the Beastman Hunter. He's got a Beastman stat line, a chainsword, flak armor, and a reclaimed auto pistol. Reclaimed because I wanted to save some credits. And he has a chainsword, which when I compared it to a chain axe after I decided to paint him, I realized the chain axe was much better than a chain sword, and in the future, I'll probably do chain axes on Beastmen, and I do have more of these models, and I do intend to build a Beastmen Venator gang at some point in the not-too-distant future. So Dolmen is the next hunter of mine, and he has just a las gun and an infrasight. When you go into the Underhells, when you're playing a Hive Secundus campaign, as every 2 weeks, the visibility gets worse. So having an infrasight, adding 9 inches of visibility to your visibility is amazing. As we can see when we move to Wabash, the hunter specialist, he not only has an infrasight on his las gun, he also has photo goggles. That will give him plus 18-inch range onto his visibility, whatever that visibility is. So basically, he can see the entire range of his las gun's range, no matter where he is in the Underhells. And that is very important in this campaign since visibility gets worse and the horrors get worse. And if you're hand-to-hand, you're going to just wreck shop. So being able to see those guys before they can get to you and shoot them is a fantastic advantage. Also, I gave him the stat line that is a BS of a 3+, so he's going to be hitting pretty well most of the time, unhindered by the visibility. So that's it. That's my gang. Here is the entire gang, and thanks a lot for watching. I hope you enjoyed this look at my Venator gang, and I'll be back soon with a recap of our Underhells campaign coming up in the not-too-distant future. But until then, let me know what you think in the comments, and as always, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.